Oh, how do we keep on top of everything? I have two top tips. One, I have a notebook and I have all of my actions for the month in it, and I get a huge amount of satisfaction from crossing my completed actions off, but that's the only way I can remember all the things I have to do. But the second and more important tip is that I have 5 fantastic direct reports, and I know that if I haven't put it in my book, they'll have put it in their book, so between us we'll have it covered.
My top tip for keeping on top of everything is to not try and keep on top of everything. All the way through all of our days, different things emerge and different things will unsettle us. If we've got that perfect list of these are my 10 things I will achieve today, you will set yourself up to feel like you're not actually delivering and that you're not actually achieving, because you're never going to go through them in this lovely sequential way. So using technology for me is really important. I think lots of people worry about the volume of emails that they have. My personal top tip, do not worry about the size of your inbox. Do not actually extend and expand the energy in pressing the delete button. It does not matter. It will disappear of its own accord. You will be able to deal with it. The complexity, when I see folks creating, 20 different versions within their inboxes for where the emails will go that actually, correlate to that particular thing. You can't do that. I'm a librarian. I'm really comfortable with cataloguing things, but I'm really comfortable with things that we can't put into nice, neat boxes. So for me, email is a gift. Don't treat it as something that makes your life impossible to deal with, and just work through it. Rely on being able to search, find the stuff, stick a flag on it, but lose those 20 minutes that you're actually wasting each day by pressing delete. It will delete itself.
I suppose I've got 3. The simplest is on emails, because that's the sort of major mode of communication across the institution. I'm very sort of disciplined, so I delete if I can, and I try to. I will defer, but I'll only ever defer to a defined point in time when I know that I'm going to have capacity to deal with something. I delegate, but I don't just fling an email saying, can you have a look at this? I'll actually ask for a response, and I'll identify when I want a response by and what I want people to do with it. Or actually do it there and then. So if you stay on those, if you do those 4 things and you do it all the time, you can normally keep your inbox to a measurable level, and then you don't feel quite so flooded. The second thing is try and have 3 different layers of planning. So you have the sort of planning of what you're going to do that day, and obviously that's normally driven by your diary. But if you try and make sure you can create a little bit of capacity and time at some point in the day to respond to things that are going wrong or differently, then that reduces stress, I think. I also sort of then look at a week, and I try and make sure that I've got time, particularly on a Friday, in terms of reading and catching up and reviewing what's going on. Then on the sort of the medium-term plan, I will look for sort of a month or so's time and say what can I actually achieve in that month? What are going to be the priorities? What's in the sort of annual cycle that's going to come my way? And I try and anticipate that in the way that one-to-ones are organised, etc. And then probably most importantly, I also do a longer term kind of termly or quarterly plan, and that will have larger scale projects which were normally a chunk down into sort of significant milestones. So for instance, this last quarter, so since Christmas through to Easter, I've kind of had three big outputs. One is creating a new approach to employability for next year, which we've done. The second is landing the kind of planning and budgeting process, and again we're pretty much there. And the third thing, which I've not actually completely delivered, is getting some approval for some capital projects, and that's actually has fallen over by another couple of weeks. But I still feel by having those two, by having that quarterly plan, it means that I can actually, I can deliver stuff over time. We obviously work to annualise plans and longer term as well, but I think it's just important that you make sure that everyone in your team knows what those are. So if you can explain how each individual directorate or service is aligned with the broader strategic plan, then everyone can contribute to it. I am a big believer in kind of minutes and action points and following up on meetings, so it's very rare I'll have any meeting that doesn't have some form of summary and some kind of dates and timelines for when work's going to be done. I think it probably winds some people up, but to be honest, with such a broad span of control, if you don't do that and you don't kind of have a central record of what those actions are, things will just run away with you, and the one thing you miss is the thing that's going to come back and bite you or cause damage for the institution.
Sometimes it's the kind of old traditional thing of what's important, what's urgent, etc. But sometimes it's just actually banking on your intuition and your experience and knowing what are the things that could have the potential to blow up, and knowing the individuals the issues relate to. And sometimes it's just knowing that if your boss is expecting a response, you do it quickly.
My top tip is that very much I work as a member of a team. So I seem to spend an awful lot of time in terms of recruiting members to the team, developing members of the team. But I think if you've got a really strong team that you're happy with, you're confident with, then it makes it a lot easier for you.
Really building a rapport with your executive assistant or PA, and empowering them to help you, because that's what they want to do, and that's what, if they're really good, they'll be really wanting to do that as much as they can. And I think making sure you delegate things to your team so that they feel empowered as well, and things are dealt with at the appropriate level of responsibility. And I think making sure that you have time out of the day-to-day meetings to make sure you review emails, and actually being systematic in taking some dedicated time in order to do that. Utilising technology, I think, for all spheres of your life, not just at work, is really helpful. And, you know, ultimately working hard, but also having permission and giving yourself the break when you need it to refresh yourself so that you can then be energised to carry on.